January 9th, 2007. A man walks onto a stage in San Francisco. He's wearing a black turtleneck. He's smiling. His name is Steve Jobs, and he's about to change everything. Today, he says, we're introducing 3 revolutionary products. A widescreen iPod, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communicator. The crowd goes wild. But 2,000 miles away, in Redmond, Washington, inside the most powerful software company on earth, the reaction is very different. One executive reportedly laughed. $500? Fully subsidized? With a 2-year contract? He said it would never sell. That executive was Steve Ballmer, CEO of Microsoft. And that moment, that laugh, would become one of the most expensive mistakes in corporate history. This is the story of how Microsoft lost the future, and how, against all odds, it won it back. To understand how Microsoft fell, you first need to understand the man who built it. Bill Gates was not the most charismatic person in the room. He wasn't the coolest. He wasn't even the most likable. But he was almost certainly the most obsessive. Gates started programming as a teenager. He would sneak out of his house at night to use the school's computer terminal. He was consumed by it. In 1975, at 19 years old, he dropped out of Harvard. He and his childhood friend Paul Allen started a tiny company. They called it Microsoft. Their bet was simple, and at the time, it sounded crazy. One day, every person on Earth would own a computer, and every computer would need software. So don't build the computer. Build the software that runs it. In 1980, that bet paid off. IBM, the most powerful computer company in the world, needed an operating system for its new personal computer. They came to Microsoft. Gates did something brilliant. Instead of selling IBM the software, he licensed it. IBM could use it, but Microsoft still owned it. And any other manufacturer could license it too. That operating system became MS-DOS, then Windows. And soon, it was on 90% of the computers on Earth. By 1999, Microsoft was the most valuable company in the world. Bill Gates was the richest man alive. But Gates was not just a businessman. He was a strategist. A paranoid, relentless strategist. And in 1995, he wrote something that proved it. In May 1995, Gates sent an internal memo to every senior leader at Microsoft. The subject line was 3 words: Internet Tidal Wave. In that memo, Gates did something extraordinary. He admitted that Microsoft had underestimated the Internet. He called it the most important shift in computing since the IBM PC. He reassigned teams. He changed priorities. He told his entire company, "We must move. Now." It worked. Microsoft pivoted hard into the Internet. They built a browser called Internet Explorer, and they used their most powerful weapon to win, Windows itself. Every copy of Windows, which was on almost every computer on Earth, now came with Internet Explorer pre-installed, for free. The rival browser Netscape had no answer. Within 3 years, it was finished. Microsoft had won the browser war. But winning it this way, using monopoly power to crush a competitor, would cost them dearly. In 1998, the United States government filed a lawsuit against Microsoft. The case was called United States v. Microsoft Corporation, and it was one of the most important antitrust trials in the history of American business. The government's argument was straightforward. Microsoft had used its monopoly over Windows to illegally crush competition. Netscape was the clearest example, but there were others. The trial was brutal. Internal emails were made public. Executives were questioned on national television. And a federal judge ruled that Microsoft had indeed violated antitrust law. The proposed punishment? break Microsoft into two companies, one for Windows, one for everything else. The empire was almost literally split in half. Microsoft appealed. The breakup never happened, but the damage was done. The company became cautious, slower, more defensive. For years, engineers feared that any new product could trigger another lawsuit. Innovation slowed. Lawyers were in every meeting. And while Microsoft was distracted fighting the government, the tech world was moving on without them. Bill Gates stepped down as CEO in January 2000. He handed the keys to his old college friend, Steve Ballmer. Ballmer was a force of nature, loud, passionate, a legendary salesman. In his first week, he famously ran onto stage, sweating through his shirt, screaming, "I love this company," at the top of his lungs, and in many ways, he delivered. Under Ballmer, Microsoft's revenue tripled, profits soared. He was, by almost every traditional business metric, a success. But there was a problem, a very serious problem. Microsoft was winning at yesterday's game and missing tomorrow's entirely. In 2000, they had a tablet computer years before the iPad. It died quietly. In 2006, they launched Zune, their answer to the iPod. Too late, nobody cared. In 2007, the iPhone launched. Ballmer laughed it off. In 2008, Google released Android. Microsoft's mobile market share collapsed to near zero. Missed mobile, missed search, missed social media. Passed on buying Facebook for $15 billion. Pattern after pattern. Opportunity after opportunity. Gone. Part of it was culture. A brutal internal system called stack ranking forced every team to identify and fire its worst performers, even on the best teams. People stopped collaborating. Fear replaced creativity. Part of it was the Gates paradox. The antitrust battle had made Microsoft defensive. The very instinct for dominance that Gates had used to win was now working against them. By 2013, even the board had had enough. Ballmer announced his retirement. The stock rose 9% the next day. Here's what makes this story remarkable. Most companies that lose their way never find it again. Kodak, BlackBerry, Nokia. They had their moment. Then they became cautionary tales. Microsoft was heading down that same road. But then they made a choice that almost no one expected. They handed the company to someone completely different. 3 men, 1 company, 3 completely different worlds. Bill Gates was the architect. He saw the future before anyone else and built the empire to reach it. His 1995 Internet tidal wave memo proved he could adapt. He could pivot. He could admit he was wrong and move fast. But Gates also had a ruthless edge that eventually became a liability. He wanted to win at everything, own everything, control everything. That instinct built a monopoly. And that monopoly attracted the government. And that government battle changed Microsoft's DNA, made it defensive, cautious, slow. Gates was the foundation, brilliant and flawed in equal measure. Steve Ballmer was the warrior, aggressive, loud, win at all costs. He saw business as a battlefield and Microsoft as an army that needed to crush its enemies. He believed in Microsoft's existing products with religious devotion. Windows was sacred. Office was untouchable. Anyone who threatened them was the enemy. That mindset had won wars before, but it made him blind to the future. The smartphone revolution happened in plain sight. And Ballmer laughed. Satya Nadella was different. Quiet, thoughtful. An engineer's engineer, born in Hyderabad, India. Joined Microsoft in 1992. Spent 20 years learning every corner of the company. But more than his background, it was his philosophy that set him apart. Ballmer had a fixed mindset. Nadella had what psychologist Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset. The belief that you can always learn, always improve, always change. When Nadella became CEO in February 2014, he stood in front of his leadership team and said, "Our industry does not respect tradition. It only respects innovation." Then he dismantled the stack ranking system. He told his engineers to collaborate, not compete. He said Microsoft's mission was no longer to put Windows on every device. It was to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. 3 leaders, 3 philosophies, and between them, the entire arc of Microsoft's story. The most symbolic moment of Nadella's transformation came just months after he took the job. He walked onto stage at an Apple event, and he held up an iPad. And on that iPad, he launched Microsoft Office for iOS. The audience was stunned. Under Ballmer, this would have been unthinkable. Office was Windows. Windows was Microsoft. You don't give your crown jewels to the enemy. But Nadella saw it differently. If people are using iPhones and iPads, and they are, then Microsoft needs to be there. Period. That single moment signaled the new era. Microsoft was no longer fighting the platform wars. It was playing a different game entirely. Then came the cloud. Nadella bet the entire company on Azure, Microsoft's cloud computing platform. He poured billions into it. He restructured the entire organization around it. The logic was simple. The world was moving from software you install to software you rent, from servers you own to infrastructure someone else runs for you. Microsoft needed to be that infrastructure. It worked. Azure became the second largest cloud platform in the world, right behind Amazon. But Nadella was already thinking about what came after cloud. Because cloud computing is not the end of the story, it is the foundation for the next war. And the next war is artificial intelligence. AI needs enormous computing power. It needs the kind of global infrastructure that only a handful of companies can provide. And whoever controls that infrastructure controls the future. In 2019, Microsoft invested $1 billion in a small AI research company called OpenAI, then another, then another. By 2023, the total investment reached $10 billion. And OpenAI released ChatGPT, the fastest growing product in the history of the internet. Microsoft had been there from the beginning, because Nadella understood. Cloud was the bridge. AI was the destination. By 2024, Microsoft became the first company in history to be worth over $3 trillion. From zero growth for 13 years to $3 trillion. But here's the question that haunts this story. What if Ballmer had never left? What if the board had stayed patient? What if Microsoft had continued on its existing path? Let's walk down that road. Without Nadella, Microsoft would almost certainly have remained a Windows and Office company, a legacy business, slowly shrinking as the world moved to mobile and cloud. Azure might have existed, but without Nadella's singular obsession, it likely would have been underfunded. A side project, not a core strategy. The OpenAI investment almost certainly never happens. Ballmer was famously skeptical of bets without clear, immediate revenue. A startup working on artificial general intelligence in 2014? That's not a Ballmer deal. And without that early investment, Microsoft has no ChatGPT integration, no Copilot, no AI strategy. In 2024, they're watching Google and OpenAI divide the AI market between them. As a spectator, meanwhile, cloud would have remained Amazon's game. The window to compete was closing fast. Without an all-in bet, that window closes completely. Microsoft becomes the next IBM, profitable, respected, but no longer defining what comes next. Now let's go further back. What if Gates had handled the antitrust battle differently? What if he had settled early, accepted limitations on bundling, and kept Microsoft out of the legal war that consumed 5 years of leadership focus? A faster, more innovative Microsoft in 2000 might have been positioned differently when the iPhone arrived. Less defensive, less bureaucratic, more willing to bet on mobile. Windows Mobile existed. It had a head start, but it was treated as a side project because the real money was in Windows and Office on the PC. An unburdened Microsoft might have thrown its full weight behind mobile and changed the outcome. And there's one more alternate path, the most fascinating one. What if Gates had responded to the internet tidal wave, but differently? Instead of crushing Netscape using Windows as a weapon, what if Microsoft had acquired Netscape? No antitrust case, no years of distraction. A Microsoft that owned both the operating system and the browser legally through acquisition might have been positioned to own the web in ways that even Google never achieved. No Google search dominance, no Gmail, no Android. In that world, Microsoft isn't the company that lost the future. It's the company that never let go of it. History turned on a single choice, crush or acquire. Gates chose to crush, and that choice defined everything that followed. So where does that leave us? Gates built the empire with brilliance and ruthlessness in equal measure. His paranoia made Microsoft great, and then it made Microsoft dangerous. And that danger brought the government, and the government changed everything. Ballmer ran the empire, and ran it well by every traditional measure, but he couldn't see past it. He was the perfect leader for a world that no longer existed. Nadella rebuilt the empire, not with force, but with humility, by admitting Microsoft wasn't the center of the universe, by going where the users were, by building the foundation under the next revolution before the revolution arrived. 3 men, 1 lesson. The most dangerous thing in business is not your competitors. It's your own past success. What can we learn from Microsoft's fall and rise? First, the Internet tidal wave memo is a masterclass in leadership. Gates saw the threat. He named it. He moved. Most leaders wait until the wave is already crashing. The best ones send a memo. Second, winning ugly has a price. Microsoft won the browser war, but the way they won it triggered a legal battle that slowed the company for years. Sometimes the most dangerous victories are the ones that look total. Third, culture eats strategy. Stack ranking didn't just hurt morale, it structurally prevented innovation. Changing a company's culture is harder than changing its products, and more important. And fourth, the best leaders are learners. Gates learned from the internet. Nadella learned from the cloud. Ballmer stopped learning. That's the difference. The companies that survive aren't the ones that never fall. They're the ones that fall and choose to get back up differently. Microsoft's story isn't over. The AI race is just beginning. Every major tech company is betting everything on what comes next. Will Microsoft's early lead in AI hold? Or will Google, Apple, or someone we haven't heard of yet take it away? Here's what history tells us. The company that wins the next decade is probably already making a decision right now that looks small, but isn't. The question is whether anyone is paying attention. On Historithm, we always are. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.